Colonel O'Neill and Major Carter are representatives of a planet called Earth. They don't look very alien.
We get that a lot.
I don't think it's too crazy to say that humans are a pretty common race in most fictional settings. After all, you watching this video are human, I assume. In most fictional settings, humans are spread out across multiple worlds. Usually in these settings, the reason for that is humanity has the ability to cross the void in starships. Sometimes this happened long ago, other times we see them in the process of doing that in the story. Stargate is a little different in that regard. When the series started, humans from Earth notably didn't have spaceships. At least, not good ones.
These shuttles, they are a formidable craft.
Oh, yeah.
Yet humans populate not only worlds throughout the Milky Way galaxy, but other galaxies as well. And this raises a big question: how? Hello and welcome to another Stargate video. Today I'm going to look at the various lore reasons humans exist on so many worlds in Stargate. Also, yes, I am aware of the real-world explanation that it's cheaper for a TV show to have normal humans rather than humans with forehead bumps. I also want to give a huge shout out to Cormac Sweeney, who actually wrote most of this script. I've heavily edited to fit how I do my videos, but I promised this video a while ago and just never got around to it. So I appreciate him writing this script up unprompted. Now I can cross off my list. See, there is a list. So the Ancients, or Alterans, or Atlanteans, or however they want to call themselves, are technically not human. At least how we would define it, since I'm pretty sure there are a couple times they do call themselves human.
A long time ago, the Ori and the Alterans were one society, human.
They didn't evolve on Earth and aren't even from the Milky Way galaxy. Though, a funny little note on that. A lot of their earlier lore wasn't established until the later seasons of SG-1. In fact, when we first learn of their extragalactic origins, Cameron Mitchell states that they presume that the Ancients are from the Milky Way, but isn't really going into detail about what the theory was. Well, in the Living Gods RPG, there is a little theory given, that over 50 million years ago, the Ancients evolved as a possible offshoot of the human race and are from Earth. This is probably a good time to acknowledge that Stargate can sometimes be really off when it comes to actual science. For example, hominins are only around 6 to 7 million years old. Now, SG-1 overrules the RPG with its explanation, and I don't think it's worth getting bent out of shape over something that was written well before the Avalon episodes. This was just something I found a little interesting. However, some of Stargate's explanations being off with real science is kind of an omnipresent thing. For example, it is stated that the Ancients are further ahead in the evolutionary tree and are closer to ascension than modern humans, the process of shedding their mortal coil and becoming pure energy. This is why some have healing powers, being able to survive being frozen for millions of years, and being able to retain greater levels of knowledge. I'm aware that's not how evolution works. It's not like Pokemon where there's an end goal and each step unlocks some superpower. However, this is also a fictional setting. Sometimes you just have to roll with the nonsense. I'm not going to comment every single time it happens, though I will bring some of this up when it comes to timelines and stuff for reasons that will become apparent later. Moving on, the history of the Ancients is vague, but it goes something like this. Millennia ago in their home galaxy, when they were called the Alterans, their society was one and on the path to ascension, but a philosophical division in the race grew. One group, who kept the name Alteran or Altera, believed in, lack of a better word, science. The other group, who became known as the Ori, held some religious belief that they grew more and more fervent in. It reached the point that the Ori attempted to wipe out those who did not share this faith. The Alterans, unwilling to go to war and break their belief in free will, built a ship and left their galaxy. After a long period of time, probably thousands of years, they discovered the Milky Way and settled on the planets Dakara, Earth, and many others, building up their own dominion and becoming one of the most powerful races in the galaxy. However, that all came crashing down when they were hit with a plague. It could have been caused by the Ori as theorized in the show, and one book does claim as such. Regardless of the origin, entire colonies of ancients were wiped out. It's unclear of the timeline in all this, but several million years ago, the ancients had no choice but to leave this galaxy in the city ship Atlantis. Though they would take steps to ensure that life would continue on in the galaxy after being devastated by the plague. Which I'll get to when I get to because, well, you'll see. They would travel to the Pegasus galaxy and found that galaxy appeared to have no life. They set about seeding the galaxy so it would bear life in the human form, which I'll cover later. However, through either experimentation or by introducing humans into an ecosystem shared with the Aratus bug, led to the rise of the Wraith. A war broke out between the ancients, called the Lanteans at this time, and the vampiric race. After about 100 years, the Lanteans were on the verge of defeat. Atlantis was the last holdout left of their dominion, and even then it had to be submerged underwater due to constant Wraith assaults. In the end, the Lanteans had no choice but to abandon the city itself and return to Earth about 10,000 years ago. While now safe from the Wraith, the Lanteans found they could no longer rebuild their society, most likely due to lack of numbers. They couldn't live among the people of Earth as they were too primitive and the land too harsh. So the remaining Lanteans spread out to many lands. Some planted the seeds of civilization in the early tribes of man. Others traveled south to the Antarctic Gate, which, by the way, this implies they must have come out through the Egyptian Gate, which would mean that the ancients would have seen what the Goa'uld were doing to early man. Ra was the one who brought the gate in Egypt to Earth because the Goa'uld didn't know of the Antarctic Gate, and the Egyptian Gate was buried after the Goa'uld left. Just something I thought of, and keep this idea of some Lanteans heading to the South Pole in mind because I'm going to bring it up later. Finally, some chose to spend their remaining lives in seclusion and meditation to achieve ascension. And that's kind of the end of the ancients. Sure, sometimes a few might have managed to survive into the modern day through various ways, or one that achieved ascension decided to return to the lower plane, but in large, the civilization of the gate builders is no more. Side note, if you ever encounter a living ancient, run. Run very far away because death itself seems to have it out for these guys. Despite mostly being known as the race that built the Stargates, they are also the first evolution of humanity that paved the way for the rest. Which leads us to... Honestly, the reason I put this video off for so long was because this part of the lore gets super confusing. Okay, so the humans from Earth are said to be the second evolution of life in the human form. However, we know the ancients had some kind of influence on human evolution. This was first theorized in the episode Frozen, and Stargate Worlds planned to use this idea to some extent as well. The thing is, we just don't know what kind of influence the ancients had and how extensive it was. Like, did the ancients see their species re-evolving in some primates on Earth and accelerate the process? Or did they just create humans in their present form? Well, it can't be the latter for a big reason. Remember when the ancients had to leave the Milky Way due to the plague? Atlantis says it was several million years ago, which, you know, is kind of a big timeline to work with. Some of the various Stargate websites give a range of somewhere between 5 to 10 million years ago. Now, modern humans didn't exist millions of years ago, but some of the early hominins did. Perhaps the ancients set up their species to have a second evolution when they left. And there's a pretty interesting theory to explain this. Remember when I said the ancients would take steps to ensure life would continue on in the Milky Way after the plague? They did this with the Dakara superweapon. It uses an energy wave that reduces all matter from living beings to its basic molecular elements. I've seen two big theories about what the ancients used this device for. First is that they used it to seed human life throughout the galaxy, and second, they used it to influence the evolution of life in the galaxy. This is used to explain why so many non-human species like the spirits, Incarans, Imperi, Ons, and possibly even the Nox look so similar to humans. This could also explain how the Serakin and humans can interbreed. Perhaps they're both descended from a similar common ancestor, or I guess more in this case, a similar genetic source. However, there's just one issue. That's not what we were told about the device. When we first heard about it, this is said.
Want to know the irony of it all? That device was originally used by the ancients to create life in the Milky Way. Well, recreated after the whole plague thing. No kidding.
Now, admittedly, this information was told by Anubis, and people have told me that he's an unreliable source. There's also the fact that in the episode Insiders, Sam says this.
It's not a weapon, technically. It was a device that was originally used by the ancients to seed all life in this galaxy.
For Anubis as an unreliable narrator, I disagree because during the episode, he doesn't really tell any direct lies. Yes, he's not being honest and is withholding some important information, but he wanted Daniel to figure things out. As for Sam's comment, I think this is just an error. Either the script was wrong and no one caught it, or Sam just simplified it down for Vala. And regardless, I'd say Anubis would know more about the device's history than Sam. Part of the reason I'm confident in saying this is that what he said is what ended up in the Stargate lexicon and Ultimate Visual Guide. These sources aren't just fan-made works, they were made by someone whose job it was to keep track of the lore in the show. So I'm inclined to believe what he said was true, and he said they used it to recreate life specifically after the plague. They didn't use it when they first arrived in the galaxy, and it's not said they used it to spread human life throughout it. Not even Sam's comment says that. I think people just got confused on how humans became so spread out throughout the galaxy, which, funny thing, we're not even at the confusing part yet. As for the second theory, I can buy that maybe the ancients fiddled with the machine to have some species evolve forms similar to their own. This was kind of Anubis's plan to wipe out life from the galaxy and remake it to his specifications. Though this theory doesn't really account for the various non-humanoid aliens in the galaxy like the Ritu or the Riol. I'm fine with this idea as a theory, but keep in mind this is never stated in the shows or any of the extended media, at least none that I can find. Going strictly by what we see and hear, they used it to recreate life that was devastated by the plague. Now we move on to the really confusing part of this. How did humans from Earth come to populate the Milky Way? At first glance, the answer is pretty simple: the Goa'uld. They discovered early humanity, found it easy to take this race as hosts, and enslave them, moving people from various cultures off-world, and this is how you get Native Americans in space. However, it has been noticed that various cultures the SGC encountered only came about after the Goa'uld were driven off of Earth. In the episode Solitudes, we hear Daniel start to try and explain this by what sounds like parallel or accelerated cultures, before bringing up the idea of a second Stargate on Earth. The thing is, this doesn't really explain anything. The second gate was buried under ice in Antarctica, and I don't know if you know this, but Antarctica is really, really cold.
Well, this sucks.
Before the advent of modern technology, people didn't live there, and the Goa'uld seemingly didn't know it was there. Yes, Jaffa were found near the Antarctic Gate. The explanation given on the Stargate lexicon is that the Goa'uld might have been able to temporarily open the Antarctic Gate when a crevasse opened in the ice, but could not be recovered, so it remained buried. Also, the word might was used, which means it could have been something else. Maybe these Jaffa got into a similar situation that Carter and Jack did, but the Goa'uld just never found them or the gate. Though in fair game, you seem to know about it. I'm not sure how you knew or who told you, only you can tell us. Yes, that was an elaborate you joke. My point is the Beta Gate's role in humans moving off of Earth is really unclear. I've talked with some who have suggested that it was the Lanteans who might have played a role. They moved some of these cultures off-world, but I find that raises questions. Like, how? When they returned, they had nothing. It was probably hard enough for some of the Lanteans to get to the South Pole, let alone move entire human populations to reseed on other planets. Also, why? I can see why they might do this to aid the humans being enslaved, but after the Goa'uld left, why keep doing it? The second gate was introduced to explain why there are human cultures on other worlds from after the System Lords left, but it really didn't, or at least not properly explain this. Oh, and you wanna know how this can get even more confusing? The book City of the Gods states that another race, the giant aliens, seed humans from Mesoamerica on worlds to keep them safe from the Goa'uld. This, by and large, didn't work. Though the external media isn't strictly canon with the shows, I just wanted to bring this up to show just how confusing this all gets. And it gets even more confusing when Merlin and Camelot are introduced. Camelot being either a city on another planet or a different planet altogether, with stories of King Arthur ruling over them, which may or may not be true. You know what I genuinely think about all this?
It's too complicated. It's too complicated.
How is that too complicated?
Honestly, I think we should just say it was the Goa'uld who moved humans off of Earth. Other aliens might have stepped in later and influenced the culture of these people. The Asgard are a good example of this. When they saved some human worlds from the Goa'uld, their presence influenced the culture of these worlds, but they did not seed them initially. And for the groups of humans who came after the Goa'uld left, there are still ways to say it was the Goa'uld. City of the Gods had a rogue group of Goa'uld find Earth after the rebellion, and the Living Gods RPG states that Pelops knew Earth's location and made regular trips to the world. Mostly it was so he could study humanity for his experiments, but he would on a number of occasions resettle humans. Even if you don't want to count the extended media, I think saying some system lords found Earth after the rebellion via ship and took some humans away, it's a fair explanation. Maybe they didn't even know it was Earth or they never wrote down the coordinates. I can buy some system lords would do something like that. Anyway, with all that out of the way, the general rule is that the humans in the Milky Way are the descendants of the ancient peoples of Earth moved off-world by aliens. Given the Goa'uld are responsible for most of this, a fair amount of worlds live under Goa'uld control as slaves. Some planets have slipped away for various reasons, being abandoned by the Goa'uld due to lack of resources, rebellion, another race coming to the humans' aid, and sometimes they were just plain forgotten by the system lords. Some of these worlds stayed the same, others advanced well beyond their Earth cousins, both technologically and possibly biologically. It's been noted that some humans, like Jonas Quinn, are different from their Earth-born counterparts. To what extent, I'm not sure, but it does kind of tie in with an attitude that some SG personnel have, that these humans are just as alien as, well, other aliens.
He's an alien. He's an alien.
This includes the Jaffa as well, who are the descendants of humans who were genetically altered to be the soldiers of the system lords and incubators for their young. Regardless of how it came to be, the Milky Way galaxy became a diverse one full of humans, which was the wish of the ancients for another galaxy. The origin of humans who live in Pegasus is strange. We know when the Lanteans arrived in Pegasus, they found it empty, and this is what is said they did.
In the hope of spreading new life in a galaxy where there appeared to be none. Soon, the new life grew and prospered. In time, 1,000 worlds bore the fruit of life in this form.
But I have to ask,
What does that mean exactly?
like, how did they do this? As far as we know, there's no Dakar device in Pegasus. Did they clone or engineer these people in the lab? Or did they influence the evolution of life on these worlds for human life to develop? And here's a question I've always had. Are the Pegasus humans related to the humans from Earth? Like, when the Lanteans were fleeing Earth, did they take some early hominin DNA with them and use that to make the Pegasus humans? Or did they take their own DNA and use that to make versions of their own species that was behind them in the evolutionary tree? Again, we know the ancients were ahead of humans from Earth in an evolutionary sense, so in theory, an earlier version of an ancient would be indistinguishable from humans from Earth, and the more common presence of the ATA gene in Pegasus could support this. Though that could just be a case of the Lanteans who got stuck on planets during the war, mingling with the locals. This is how the ATA gene popped up for some Earth-born humans, those Lanteans that chose to plant seeds of civilization in early man. One interesting thing to note before we move on is why. Why did the Lanteans decide to seed human life in a new galaxy and not just colonize it for themselves. To be clear, they did colonize worlds, but why also create a second species of humans? And no, they didn't do it to create some underclass that would work for them. The Ancients may be a lot of things, but slavers are not one of them. The original version of this script had a line from the Silmarillion that I think is fitting. It seems to me there's a great room in Arda, Earth, for many things that might rejoice in it. Yet it is for the most part empty, still, and dumb. Perhaps they wanted others besides themselves and future generations to admire the work they set up. We do know the Lanteans would monitor and guide these young cultures, as we saw in the episode The Game, and something to remember is that the Lanteans as a species were getting closer to ascension. Some had been able to do it since at least the plague in the Milky Way, but that was millions of years ago. It is possible that they knew that one day there wouldn't be any of them left in the mortal plane, so they wanted to make sure they had a successor or some kind of living legacy of the first evolution of humanity. However, the Ancients were the only group of humans to seed human life. Back in the Alteran home galaxy, usually called the Ori galaxy, the Ori continued on. We don't really know anything of their history, though we do know they would achieve ascension like the Ancients. And similar to their cousins, the Ori created their own humans on a number of worlds in that galaxy. Again, we don't know much of the details of how or why they did this. I am confident in saying that these humans are an earlier version of the Alterans and don't have any connection to Earth, since the human population in the Milky Way was kept secret from the Ori. I did just tell a small lie about why the Ori created humans. I say kind of because it's not clear if it was something the Ori knew when they created these humans or discovered after. And we don't know if they made these humans before or after they ascended, but as it turns out, the power of prayer is a real thing in Stargate. There is a transfer of energy from worshippers to the Ori when they believe in them. However, for it to have a measurable effect, it requires massive numbers of humans doing this, typically of their own will. To this effect, the Ori set up a religion known as Origin that they are effectively the gods of. One last thing I want to comment on is Merlin at one point says the Ori started out with noble intentions. Some have taken this to mean the Ori created their humans with a similar idea to the Lanteans, a living legacy. I kind of disagree. I think Merlin was talking about when the division between Ori and Alteran first happened. After all, there's nothing wrong with having faith or belief in something. The Ori just took it to an extreme. One that led them to not only try and kill their brothers and sisters, but also lie to their followers. The main idea of Origin is if you believe in the Ori and follow their rules, they will help one ascend. But in reality, they were just leeching off of them. I don't have a good transition between this section and the next, but remember how the humans of the Milky Way are the descendants of the people of Earth? And it seems most of the other galaxies are descendants of the Alterans and Ori? Well, there is one exception. The people of Novus are the descendants of the Destiny expedition from an alternate timeline who ended up traveling back in time almost 2,000 years. It's kind of weird that the group of humans whose origin involves time travel is the easiest to explain. They settled on the world Novus and actually developed an advanced society. There was a split and two nations on the world formed, but the two nations came together when a rogue black hole caused the planet to become unstable with earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. 30 years before 2010, they had begun to scout nearby worlds for colonization. Though the Stargate on Novus was destroyed by a lava flow, and the two nations built evacuation ships to travel to one of their colonies, which would take 200 years due to lack of FTL. Something I think is interesting is that the people of Novus are the most separated from the other known groups of humans. The Milky Way and Pegasus galaxies are right next to each other. We really don't know how far away the Ori galaxy is, probably pretty far, but that galaxy is now connected to the Milky Way via the Supergate. But the people of Novus are so far away, and given they lack basic FTL, odds are they will never see Earth or any of the other known galaxies with human life, at least not for a long time. Just to give a quick rundown, because I know this video was all over the place, The Ancients and Ori were the first evolution of human life, and both would go on to seed new generations of humans. The Ori would seed their home galaxy and the Ancients in Pegasus. Both these groups of humans seem to be earlier versions of the first evolution, with at least some interbreeding between the people of Pegasus and their creators. The humans of Earth are often called the second evolution of the human form. This implies their evolution is separate from the first, but again, it's hinted in various places the Ancients had some kind of influence on human evolution. But they also weren't around for large portions of human evolution. My best guess is they either saw their own species re-evolving and sped up the process, or they seeded their species to re-evolve but left them on their own with little to no oversight, unlike those in Pegasus. Later, this second evolution would be moved off of Earth by aliens and seeded around the Milky Way. When the Ancients returned, there would be some interbreeding between them and the humans of Earth. And finally, the people of Novus and their colonies are the descendants of Earth-born humans as a result of time travel. And that's the rundown of where humans come from in Stargate. Again, I apologize this video was all over the place. You'd think the origins of the human race would be simpler to explain, especially in a fictional setting. Though, as I say that, real human origins in history can be complicated and confusing at times. Just for an example, did you know that modern humans have DNA from other groups of humans? The Neanderthals, and yes, they were mentioned in SG-1. Denisovans, or Denisovans, I've heard people pronounce it both ways. And apparently there's a third group from West Africa. Look up ghost hominins if you're interested. Which is kind of interesting given that some humans in Ancients and Stargates had some relationships. Really makes you sit and wonder what really defines a human being. Is it our DNA, where we were born, what we look like, and how much of the past lives on in us? One last thing to end off on is I'm curious how the new show will handle all this information, if they'll clear up some of these confusing points, and hopefully nothing gets added that contradicts anything I said in this video. But we'll just have to wait and see as we just don't know much about it yet. Though the current rumor mill is that it's going to be set in a new galaxy, so maybe we'll have a fifth group of humans to learn about. On that note, I want to thank Cormac again who wrote the script. I'm sorry I changed so much of it, but I did use the original as reference for this script. Given how absolutely convoluted and confusing some of this got, it was a real help. But what do you think about the various explanations for where humans came from in the Stargate franchise? Are there any you like, dislike? Do you have any explanations of your own or ones I missed? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, leave a like and subscribe, follow me on my social medias, and remember...
And the galaxy is populated by the ancient peoples of Earth.
There could be millions by now.
And you are their greatest hope.